Guardian of Order, Petitioner.
It's about time.
Guess we just head in through here. Some goods. Petition. Petition 36 Sigma 64. Through the efforts of the Adeptus Arbites at my family estate, 12 criminals along with members of my family were terminated. The proctor in charge of the purge decreed that their bodies be left lying at the scene of the crime for further investigation. 40 planetary cycles have passed since. The heavy odor and vermin resulting from keeping dead bodies without the ability to transport them ceased to be of concern to me after the first 2 cycles. However, the mummified remains of the criminals prevent my estate from properly functioning at this time. I humbly request that another officer be assigned to oversee the investigation and that they be informed of the necessity of progressing the investigation in my home. Resolution. Petition rejected in accordance with Protocol UP 1845 basis. The assignment of the head investigator is regulated by Protocol UCH 9389. Note, a fine is to be imposed on the petitioner for failing to preserve the evidence. 12 people were left dead, lying on the ground, being told to not be interacted with for 40 days. And they're fining them because they didn't stop them from desiccating and mummifying. Amazing. Carrying piles and papers and endless shelves heaved with ledgers evoke special reverence for the laws of the God Emperor in the hearts of the servants of the Adeptus Administratum.
I won't tolerate weakness.
Oh, we got more goods here. Got to read all of these. Oh, we've got a lot going on. Or at least 3 files here. Order the destruction of the special category item Thesertium, natural psi focus. There is a note in the margin that has been underlined twice. Existence of similar resources. Check the mining world register. Report capture of the void ship Heartless. Boarded the Heartless as part of the unit led by S. Anthar. Neutralized the target Sargona. And the captured vessel was turned into an escort ship. The word escort has been circled several times in ink. And Rykad Minoris. Assisted in the suppression of the rebellion on Rykad Minoris, departed unscathed. The world is to be considered null and void. A side note reads damage assessment, tithe recalculation urgent. I'll steal all those files too. Sacred Scroll, the 1005 admonitions of Master of Inventory of Vasilius to the Adeptus of the Administratum. Alright, Prefect Inscribia Vultur. The shriveled insect-like old woman greets you with a keen look. Welcome back to the Temple of Law and Order, your lordship. I have already been informed that you are here about Thessera. Prefect Vultur nods to herself and snaps her brittle fingers, prompting a servo skull to flick closer. The creaking of its quill filling the air. Begin entry 51/4 Alpha. In the matter of the world of Thessar and its obligation to pay the imperial tithe, this audience with the prefect of the Adeptus Administratum is now in session. Now then, what were your findings, Ignatius von Valentius? My senator will give you an account of it. Report to anyone in person would be beneath my station. Solomon, tell the prefect everything. A heretic had seized power on Thessera. I had him executed. I discovered a material in Thessara known as Thesertium, a potent psi focus. I had it destroyed in the interest of the Imperium's security. I'm going to let Solomon tell the story, which probably shows myself as being more honest and honorable, that I am not trying to hide anything and allowing the Arbide member to state the full tale. Solomon, tell the prefect everything. I'm afraid I cannot accept another person's report. Her shriveled fingers nimbly extract a piece of parchment from her stack of papers. It is covered in minuscule writings. According to Koronus Expanse Statute 19/A-11, any decision pertaining to matters of the tithe shall solely be answered for by the person that directly made said decision. A report made by any other person shall be deemed legally null and void. The prefect puts the document back in its place. As you can see, there is a sacred stipulation that you submit your report in person and that I accept it from no one else. Okay, I discovered a material on I guess both of these. Maybe we'll start with the top one. The heretic had seized power on Thessara. I had him executed. I see. The old woman looks at you intently over her ocular lenses. That is regrettable news. Even if your action was forced by circumstance, the loss of a governor means the loss of the very stability that any servant of the Administratum is immutably obligated to uphold and protect. Well, let us get to the record then. The prefect turns to the servo skull. Rogue trader Ignatius von Valencius effected the execution of the governor of Thessara, appointed by the Adeptus Administratum, preliminary damage assessment and restoration forecast of the world key structure Class A severe, noted and recorded. I discovered a material on Thessara known as Thessertium, a potent psi-focus. I had it destroyed in the interests of the Imperium's security. The prefect grimaces. I can quite confidently deem the outcome to be adverse to the interests of the Imperium. Alas, your lordship, I am duty-bound to deliver an exact and impartial assessment of the events. Rogue trader Ignatius von Valencius, upon learning about the existence of deposits of natural psi-focus located on the world Thessara, destroyed said material in its entirety. Consequently, the Imperium was deprived of a highly prized resource, noted and recorded. The prefect chews on her lips in thought. I will be frank with you, your lordship. The conclusions that were drawn regarding the Thessara inspection were far from satisfactory. Minor disturbances such as the mass execution of mutants or the Ravel's plot disguised as a celebration are not nearly as dangerous as the, if you'll permit my choice of words, coup that resulted from your investigation. I understand the consequences are something that those endowed with power are wont to leave to their servants to deal with, and therefore something they find acceptable to ignore. Scribia's ocular lenses flash as she looks up from her scrolls. However, I hope my words may help you to revise your approach to executing the Imperium's will in the Koronus Expanse in the future. With a tap of her nail, she dismisses the servo skull. I mean, there's some truth to the fact that that resource could be useful. I think executing a governor who was clearly heretical and leading the people wrongly was not a bad thing. And that she's incorrect that this is going to cause too much instability. There was already instability. Leaving him around wouldn't have helped with that. How did you obtain such detailed information about the events on Thessara? Duty dictates that Adeptus Administratum officials always be adequately informed. Otherwise, our service to the Imperium's order would be of rather questionable use. Unfortunately, it is for the same reason that I cannot disclose my sources to you. If you think that the Thessarian mineral is so important to the Imperium, make it part of the tithe, what's the problem? Well, we destroyed it, didn't we? No. Yes. Yes, we destroyed it, but we didn't exterminate the planet. That was the option we chose. The dogmatic choice, in fact. I took care of a problematic world of yours, and you're twisting the facts regarding my efforts. Somewhat true. One way or another, we can consider the matter of Thessara closed, am I correct? Yeah, I took care of a problematic world of yours, and you're twisting the facts regarding my efforts. The prefect's ocular lenses flash as she replies in an offended tone. I, his lowly and unworthy servant, have no right to twist any facts. My duty is to assess consequences and do everything I can to make sure the Imperium receives what it is owed. That is the purpose of my existence. Suddenly the old woman's voice becomes less stern and almost didactic. Speaking from my wealth of experience, if I do say so myself, taking care of the Imperium's prosperity is a heavy burden, albeit an honorable one. The fact that even a rogue trader can run into difficulties while doing it only further confirms my many years of observations. Alright, well, if you think it's important, make it part of the tithe. What's the problem? Of course you have the power to change your decision at the snap of your fingers, but its implementation will fall to thousands upon thousands of Administratum functionaries. They will have to first record the previous status of the tithe, and then begin an equally lengthy process of re-registering the payment. As servants of law and order, we cannot simply skip the cumbersome parts. Procedure must be followed meticulously, lest we become mired in anarchy. No, you're going to be mired in bureaucracy. Totally different. Well, one way or another, we can consider the matter of Thessara closed, am I correct? Closed and recorded, yes. The old woman smacks her lips in satisfaction. However, that was just the first item on the agenda. Now on to the next matter. The prefect beckons over another servo skull, which obediently takes its place at her side. Begin entry 52/1 Sigma. A competency assessment of Proctor Solomon Anthar based on his performance during the mission on the world of Thessar. You hear a painful metallic creak as Solomon's augmented hand clenches into a fist. Competency assessment? Very well, Prefect, I'm listening. What gives you the right to evaluate Solomon? Solomon did nothing that could be considered a violation of the Lex Imperialis. Someone has finally caught you by the scruff of the neck, eh, lawman? Let's see how that plays out. What gives you the right to evaluate Solomon? So as to avoid misunderstanding, allow me to clarify that I am not making any judgment, but rather gathering information at Marshal Strock's request. The Prefect turns to Solomon. Proctor Anthar, you will be evaluating your own conduct in this instance. For my part, I will merely state a few key points. Let us begin. How would you describe your performance taking into account the following facts? Volter produces a parchment scroll. You took part in the execution of administrative appointee without its appropriate permission. You also allowed yourself to be captured, thus endangering your mission and imperiling the valuable equipment issued to you by the Adeptus Arbites. What is more, you sanctioned a tithe-related decision that carries adverse consequences for the Imperium. The old woman pauses. That is all. Proceed to your self-evaluation. Solomon's heavy gaze is fixed upon the Prefect as he slowly forces the first word out of his jaws as if they have turned to stone. I took every effort and was acting solely in the name of the Lex Imperialis. However, the outcome of the mission speaks for itself. My verdict is thus that my performance in the Thessar case was inadequate. Noted and recorded. The Prefect's immaculate polished ocular lenses bore into you once more. Now that the Thessar inspection report has been properly entered into the record, allow me, on behalf of the Adeptus Administratum, to officially extend our gratitude to you for the support you provided to us. May the Von Valencius name be forever praised, and may the Emperor protect your dynasty for many generations to come. That said, I must now request your assistance in a different capacity. A number of highly important court cases have accumulated at the Palace of Justice, the kind that require formal resolutions by the rogue trader himself. Are you not being a little harsh on yourself, Solomon? What's the Palace of Justice? It's the Administrator's responsibility. Handle it yourself. How will the trial proceed? Are you not being a little harsh on yourself, Solomon? Exactly as harsh as my duty demands that I be. An arbitrator has no right to mistakes or weaknesses. Our mission is much too important. The proctor's voice sounds firm but detached, as if his mind is wandering far away. What is this Palace of Justice? It is a temple of the law erected by your ancestors. Some cases could only be settled by heads of the dynasty, but since their time was occupied by other important duties, a facility was built for storing especially complex cases. At a certain point, servants of the Administratum were permitted to use the Palace of Justice for hearing disputes. Then, in Lady Theodora's time, the Arbites became part of the legal procedure as well. How will the trial proceed? The defendants will speak first, whereupon you can ask me clarifying questions on the case, and then the woman gives you a meaningful look over her ocular lenses. A death sentence must be passed. You are, of course, free to judge otherwise, but an execution is preferable, since in every case that will come before you, an outcome without highly unpleasant consequences is unlikely. Executions reduce the number of malcontents and motivate prospective defendants to solve their problems before they come under the purview of the Rogue Trader's court. One of the Rogue Trader's duties, many duties, is to mete out justice. I agree. I hope we can get this over with quickly, and as important as these cases may be, my personal business is even more so. Yeah, I think one of my duties is to mete out justice, which is interesting that I have a responsibility to mete out justice, but when I meted out justice against the governor of the planet, suddenly that was terrible and horrible. There's one other thing, Rogue Trader. By the order of Marshal Strach, Proctor Anthar has been assigned a short-term mission. He is to take his leave of your retinue at dawn. As this is a matter of extreme urgency, the Adeptus Arbites would appreciate your understanding. What mission? It's unacceptable. Find yourself another arbitrator. Or I see good luck on your assignment. What mission? Proctor Anthar is to lead an arbitrator squad tasked with neutralizing some dangerous criminals who are threatening the Administratum's interests. A rather mundane assignment, as you may have gathered. I mean, I'm not going to say they don't have the authority to assign their people. Hopefully he comes back to me soon. But I see. Good luck on your assignment, Solomon. Thank you, Rogue Trader. I have relegated my current tasks in advance, and thus I am ready to escort you to the Palace of Justice immediately. Please follow me. Huh. Was it just me, or does that look like a giant gun? Because that looks like a giant gun. You're greeted by an impeccably dressed man with a perfectly straight back. Narbides' scale emblem is embroidered on his clothes. Gloria House von Valencius, we are honored to welcome you to the Palace of Justice, your lordship. Do you wish to proceed with the session at once, or will you grace me with any questions I might humbly answer? What is this place? This is the Palace of Justice, the 9th residence of House von Valencius, erected by your esteemed ancestor, Benefaz von Valencius, and handed over by Theodore von Valencius, ever may she bask in the throne's radiance, to the Adeptus Arbites and the Administratum for judiciary use. Cases of special interest are heard at this palace. Sentences are carried out here also. Are there any other such institutes elsewhere in my protectorate? No, your lordship. As is the case with the rest of the Imperium, worlds make do with the traditional method. The accused are not allowed to say a word. The executions are carried out as ordered by planetary authorities or by powerful organizations in the Imperium. Only here on Dargonus does such an unusual ceremony exist. Benefaz von Valencius was known for his eccentricities. It is said that he invented the system himself and started this glorious tradition in which you are to take part today. What kinds of cases are usually heard here? Only the most important ones that involve the interests of the highest-born persons and prominent factions of the Imperium, disputes between noble houses that go on for generations, conflicts between the God Emperor's servants who are vested with authority and whose disagreements affect trade and security in the Protectorate, and other litigations of supreme significance. The cases litigated in the Palace of Justice quite literally concern matters of life and death. In such instances, there is always a guilty party whose lies, connivances, or negligence have caused damage to the Protectorate. The task of the judge is to establish guilt and pass a stern sentence, as order cannot be imposed without these, or without summary executions. Alright, let's begin. Please follow me. Scribia Vultur's dreary vox-amplified voice carries across the hall. The court will now hear case DP-1453/2, the doleful host against the Astropathic Choir of Dargonus. Representatives for the parties will present their arguments following standard procedure. Sister Juth. A woman with lines of scripture all over her skin folds her arms into an aquila. My name is Sister Juth, and I represent the doleful host. O God Emperor's anointed one, we came upon a group of heretics whose minds brimmed with the most shameful thoughts. We captured them and tortured them as befits their transgressions. From what we were able to discern from their wailing and screaming, the head of the Astropathic Choir is plotting to betray House von Valencius. No one is a liar when flame is caressing their flesh. The doleful host surrounded the choir building and demanded that the heretic be handed over. It was solely out of respect for the Anointed One that we refrained from burning down the wayward heretic's den on the spot. However, say but the word, and we shall take him, and he may undergo a righteous cleansing. So they found heretics, tortured them, and learned that the head of the Astropathic Choir is plotting to betray us. They didn't learn necessarily from the Astropathic Choir's head himself. The heretics could have been mistaken or lying or whatever. The arguments are acknowledged and shall be weighed on the scales of justice. The representative will retreat to the Chapel of Patience to await the verdict. The gaunt man dressed in astropath's robes is standing tall, but his voice trembles with fury. I am Master Angelio. I represent the Dargonus Astropathic Choir. These insidious and ignorant people are passing off their victims' ravings as truth. Your lordship, people will say anything under torture just to make the agony stop. We have served House von Valencius faithfully for decades. Master Praz, the longest of all, please order them to stand down. The master of the court repeats the same monotonous formula, bidding the other representative to leave the courtroom. I'd like to hear out the parties. Why are they putting things on the scales? Give me the details about the parties in this conflict. I want to see who among them are trustworthy. Switch on your Vox. Vigis, quick, ask our ship's choirmaster whether Master Praz of Dargonus has been known to engage in any compromising behavior. Hear my retinue's opinion. Requires further investigation or ready to pass judgment. I'd like to hear out the parties. Again, I'm afraid they have already said what they had to say and are humbly awaiting their fate. Whatever questions you have, you may pose to me. Really, that's the sum total of what the court case will tell us? There's no, long back and forth court case of each person, calling in witnesses or anything? Why are they putting things on scales? The scales of justice are a sacred relic installed as a testament to the alliance between the von Valencius dynasty on one side and the Adeptus Arbites and the Administratum on the other. Legends say ancient machine spirits dwell within the relic. The scales of justice are only used on extraordinary occasions when an intervention from the rogue trader is necessary. Ceremony dictates that items symbolizing the party's arguments be placed on the scales, and once the verdict is announced, the machine spirits weigh the decision made and show either affirmation or rejection through the position of the scales. However, there has never been an occurrence where the rogue trader and the spirit of the scales were divided on the verdict. Tech use succeeded by Pascal. It is highly unlikely that such an artifact actually exists. Judging by the design of the device, it is nothing more than a set of regular, albeit enormous and masterfully crafted weight scales, devoid of machine spirits of any kind. Someone must be secretly manipulating the plates in order to add greater profoundness to the rogue trader's verdict. Give me the details about the parties in the conflict. I want to see who among them is trustworthy. As the prefect leans towards you, you get a whiff of ink and candle wax. The doleful host is a respected cult of the God Emperor. The Adeptus Ministorum has deemed them to be paragons of virtue who combat every manner of heresies and has enlisted their aid in various conflicts. Naturally, the ecclesiarchy stops short of counting them among its warriors, but it uses them in very similar ways. The Astropathic Choir hardly needs an introduction. They are some of the most valuable servants of the Imperium, without whom any and all communication between our worlds would collapse. The Dargonus Choir took horrific casualties in the recent major warp storm. Master Praz made an enormous effort to at least partially restore communication. While we may not have proof of his innocence, Praz's dedication to his duty is beyond doubt. The old woman locks her shriveled fingers together. As you can see, this is an intricate situation. You see clearly now that no matter what decision you make, it will backfire on you. However, there is a way to benefit from this. Allow the host to dispense their vigilante justice, then accuse the fanatics of violating an ancient agreement that forbade the ecclesiarchy from having its own army, and proceed to confiscate the host's property. Huh. Yeah, because the ecclesiarchy is not allowed to have an army. I think that's why the Sisters of Battle became a thing, is because the official wording was you can't have man-at-arms or something like that. And so they created an order of all women as part of the church to allow them to have their own standing army, more or less. It's something like that. Warhammer 40k lore is crazy. There's just quick, ask our ship's choirmaster whether Master Praz of Dargonus has been known to engage in any compromising behavior. At once, Lord Captain. The Palace of Justice falls silent for several minutes until Vidge's voice returns. Choirmaster Wise has known Master Praz for quite a long time. He has made a very measured statement to the effect that for some time now, the mental images conveyed by Praz have taken on a shade of profound anxiety and have become more aloof and detached overall. Dr. Wise attributes this to Pra's horrific experience during the warp storm, but he is less than completely sure, as there is still something that sets the Dargonus Choirmaster's messages apart from those of his fellow survivors. Okay, so there is something off about Praz. Interesting. I want to hear my retinue's opinions. Lord Captain, without a Choirmaster, the power of Dargonus' astropaths would be significantly diminished. Unless a worthy replacement is found for Master Praz, he cannot be executed. Seneschal frowns. There is a Corda world that owes us an old debt which can be repaid with a seasoned astropath. We can make the request, although it would leave the planet in question with barely any means of communication. Both parties have shown disrespect for the Imperium's authority. The doleful host is engaging in mob justice, and the defendant did not even deign to stand trial in person. Sentence them both to death. That would be the optimal outcome. Solomon, is it not excessive to execute both parties? No, such a verdict will remind your subjects that only the rogue trader has the right to administer justice. Besides, if you take the host's side, it will inspire new self-proclaimed executioners, and if you absolve the astropath, and he turns out to have been guilty after all, other heretics will feel safe to act with impunity. That is why I advise you to be stern. Lex is on your side. I kind of agree with him, and that's also what our check that we made said to do. Wherever that was. Is that kill them both and then acquire all of their riches. Which feels bad. I heard you and I'm ready to pass my judgment. I mean, we could try and go for further investigation. I guess I'm going to try it, see if there's any further investigation we can make. I'm guessing the answer is no. Situation is complex and requires further investigation. The prefix dry fingers pressed down on the runes on her data slate. As I thought, I deeply regret to inform you that said further investigation is impossible. The host fighters are already breaking down the doors of the choir. Delaying the decision would lead to uncontrollable consequences. Alright, I heard you and I'm ready to pass my judgment. As you wish, your lordship. Who is to face the death penalty? Declare Praz guilty, escort him here for execution. I hereby clear the choirmaster of all charges and order Sister Juth to be executed. Execute Praz. Abelard, let Corda world give their choirmaster Dargonus. I agree with Solomon. Both parties to the case are guilty. Execute them. I kind of do agree with that. There's something going on with Praz. We don't know what. But I also don't agree with the mob justice being handed out. And the fact that the choirmaster refused to even show up for his own trial doesn't feel great. Let's see Sister Juth prove her faith. She may execute Praz if she acknowledges that the host is a minor army of the ecclesiarchy, for indeed it is one in essence. If the sister agrees, then upon Praz execution, the doleful host will be sentenced to exile and expropriation, lest they be tempted to take up arms again. There will be no execution dismissed. So, we lose security and efficiency. This one, we gain a bunch of holy gifts, weaponry, and ranged weaponry. Gain security, gain efficiency. Yeah. Let Sister Juth prove her faith. She may execute Praz if she acknowledges that the host is a minor army of the ecclesiarchy, for indeed it is one in essence. If the sister agrees, then upon Praz execution, the doleful host will be sentenced to exile and expropriation, lest they be tempted to take up arms again. That is my judgment. Spoken like a true heir to Lady Theodora. Who could squeeze gold out of a rock? Lady Sister Juth would never recant her statement. She will have no choice but to accept your conditions. The prefect proceeds matter-of-factly to the next scroll. The court will now hear petition CR-1547/33 restated. The petitioner is Cardinal Anvilus. Your arguments, please, Cardinal. The gaunt man raises his bloodshot eyes at you. For a moment, all sound ceases, even the scratching of the countless servo-skull quills. The man's gaze is full of pain, so strong and undiluted that your breath seizes in your throat. I am impure, O Emperor's anointed one. I am beset by impure thoughts, but no one believes my confessions. I have been giving away the treasures I possess, only for people to bring me more. Worse still is the knowledge that I am leading people astray. They look at me and believe a state of perfect grace is attainable, while I am very tired. The Cardinal blinks away a tear and continues, but most terrible of all is that my brethren, the preachers of the Koronus Expanse, see me as a holy man. Their delusion has been so persistent that they sent a petition to Holy Terra asking that I be made a saint. That was when I became firm in my decision to submit to torture in front of my congregation, thus reminding them that no holiness exists unless bestowed as a gift by the God Emperor. Even clerics of my rank can and must repent, thus becoming more pure every day. Please allow me to undergo mortal torture in his name, in front of my parishioners. Am I hearing this correctly? Is the Cardinal asking to be tortured to death for his wickedness? That is correct. In addition, he insists on your subjects bearing witness to it, as a lesson to them, so to speak. To refuse a cardinal is impious in itself, but to execute one who is a saint in all but name. You devise an elegant rendering of the sentence, one that will convince everyone that you are in the right and save you from being branded a saint killer. All you have to do is accuse the cardinal of intending to murder an all but canonized individual. So kill him for the crime of trying to kill a near saint, namely himself. What does my retinue have to say? Situation analysis complete. Let the paradox cease. Let functionality triumph. Suggestion: use the unit Cardinal Anvilus organic remains to construct a servo skull herald and place it in an automated chapel. The status of sainthood will be extended to the liturgical mechanism. Okay, so kill him, turn him into a servo skull, and then make the skull a saint. You can see it. According to the Lex Imperialis, the candidate saint may personally challenge their sainting by petitioning the Ecclesiarch on Holy Terra. Sidestepping the Imperial cult is a violation of the Emperor's law. Since astropathic communication with the rest of the Imperium has been disrupted, I propose to put Cardinal Anvilus on a ship that crosses the Maw so that he can submit his request with every formality observed. Basically sentencing to death by going through the Maw. But Solomon, the Maw is closed. That is nothing to diminish the stipulations of the Lex Imperialis. Besides, following the letter of the law absolves you of the necessity of tainting your hands with the blood of a potential saint. Either the Cardinal will cross the Maw, thus proving his sainthood, or he will perish if the Emperor wills it. As you can see, the Lex Imperialis has all the answers. I'm ready to pass my judgment. Attention, the rogue trader speaks. I'm feeling like this is set up to make me feel, or to make me look bad. Like all of these trials are designed with making the Von Valencius head look like a failure, like we're making the wrong choices, which is kind of what she did when we were at her desk, and she pointed out that the choices we made were all wrong, and I'm sure if we'd made different ones, those also would have been wrong. It's all just designed to make us look bad. I see the depth of the Cardinal's contrition, and I am willing to help towards its acceptance. I hope the Emperor has mercy on his soul. You heard Pascal. Cardinal Anvilus shall die an honorable death and continue to serve the faith as part of a sacred machine. I put my trust in Solomon's advice. If the Cardinal wants to challenge his proposed sainthood, he should go to Terra. I would not dare inflict so horrible fate on one whom the ecclesiarchy is deemed a holy man. In dark hours such as these, we need the light of faith even more. Cardinal Anvilus, in seeking permission to torture a holy man, you are violating both secular and ecclesiastic laws. For that, I sentence you to death. Gain 2 efficiency. This one would gain us security, and that one would give us some promethium and mechanisms by making him a servo skull. While I like getting the stuff, promethium and mechanisms, particularly mechanisms are sometimes hard to come by, I'm gonna go with the skill check option of he violated law by trying to torture a holy man, and so he's sentenced to death. Modicum of respect can be glimpsed in the prefect's gaze in your direction. A very balanced decision. It sets a precedent that, though through reasoning by analogy, will help in optimizing other court cases on Dargonus. I gave you what you wanted. You're welcome. Still would have been nice to also make it Servo Skull, but because there's nothing about that decision that precluded the option that Pascal had. The Rogue Trader has made his decision. Arbitrators carried out. I mean, that's already happened. Let's move on to the last case for today. The court will now hear case DP-1646/7, Lady Mullis Secundus against the late Lord Mullis. Lord Mullis being deceased, he will be represented by his progeny, Agartha and Sigillus Mullis. Representatives for the parties will present their arguments following standard procedures. Your Lordship, I'm Lady Mullis Secundus. Only 8 cycles ago, a man broke into my house posing as my husband, the late Lord Mullis. Contrary to what I know, he denies that he was killed by pirates. Instead, he purportedly survived, thanks to the God Emperor's providence. However, I hold here his death certificate issued by the Administratum, which clearly states that my husband passed away. I demand that this fraud be executed. Gohan belligerently waves around a scroll on which the words "declared dead" are clearly visible. So, pirates attacked her husband. He may or may not have died, but the ecclesiarchy declared him dead. He shows up saying he survived, and now she's like, nope. He's declared dead in writing, so finish him off. And I'm guessing that when he's dead, she gains a big inheritance. Well, she would have already had it. She would have to give up some of her treasures she gained from him being dead if he suddenly was declared still alive. The arguments are acknowledged and shall be weighed on the scales of justice. The representatives will retreat to the Chapel of Patience to await the verdict. Your Lordship, our father did survive. He really was captured by pirates who were going to demand ransom, but the Imperial Navy managed to board the ship and rescue him. After he went missing, our mother, Lady Mullis, arranged for a death certificate before we received the good news. Now we are in the humiliating position of having to prove that our father is alive, while our mother is living with her new husband, Lord Secundus, and has taken over our family business. We implore you to restore Lord Mullis to his life and name. He is humbly awaiting your decision in the Chapel of Patience. All arguments have been acknowledged. Let the Rogue Trader's verdict be delivered. What does Lord Mullis have to say? She's gonna be like, that's not pertinent to this court case. The prefect plays a Vox recording on one of the servo skulls. The soft voice is interspersed with static, but you are able to make out the words. I am Mullis. When the pirates captured me, I thought I was doomed, but fate proved to be more gracious than that. I hurried home only from my own house by my servants and learned that Lady Mullis had already had me declared dead and married Lord Secundus. She had also taken control of our everything. Agartha and Sigillus have recognized me. I'm losing my mind. So we're missing some words, it seems, which isn't great. What does the Mullis family do? The prefect turns to one of her countless data slates. The Mullis family manufactures nutritional rations. They supply the Astartes Militarum, as well as worlds that have no production of their own. With the Lord at the helm, they covered the needs of 3 regiments and 5 worlds. Now it is 5 regiments and 12 worlds. One might say Lady Mullis Secundus has done much better than her husband did. Lady Mullis Secundus' talents are self-evident. She can easily boost production on any planet. What might be called her promotion under the guise of punishment would bring tangible benefits. You just so happen to think of several backwater worlds that have good potential but lack the capable stewardship to match it. Let my retinue speak. So essentially we send her somewhere more useful than where she's at now. Under the guise of a punishment, give her a promotion. And then we allow the husband, the first husband, to be brought back to life, according to documentation, and take back over his own business. Let my retinue speak now. This is a complicated situation, but Lady Mollis Secundus was acting in the Imperium's interests. She had shouldered the duty of care for the family business and was in no position to wallow in her grief for cycles upon cycles. Cassia throws back her shoulders and says in a dignified voice, "A marriage between people of noble birth is a union of two servants of the Emperor. Duty toward the Imperium is at the heart of that union. If there comes a long period of time when one of the spouses is unable to fulfill their obligation, the marriage loses its meaning. If you could codify this understanding in law, that would help resolve this situation." Lady Mollis Secundus is right. Then her children are the impostor's accomplices and are guilty of defaming the authenticity of the Administratum's documents. Now Solomon has enough sang-froid in him for a regiment. Let the woman know that her heirs must face the same fate as the criminal, for so stipulates the Emperor's law. Prefect, relay Solomon's words to Lady Mollis Secundus. Prefect, rule for the Administratum side and let us call it a day. Or the case is clear to me, I'm ready to pass my verdict. We'll do this first. Prefect, relay Solomon's words to Lady Mollis Secundus. As you wish. The prefect's dry fingers tap quickly on her data slate. Soon afterwards, she looks up from the vid screen and says in a colorless voice, Lady Mollis Secundus has confessed to bribing an Administratum official and is pleading for her offspring to be spared. So once she knew that her actions that she's pushing right now are going to lead to the death of her children, suddenly her tune changes. The case is clear to me now. I'm ready to pass verdict. I'll be silent. What is your decision, Your Lordship? Lord Mollis is to be declared alive and fully restored to his rights. All consequences of his death are to be deemed null and void. I order Lord Mollis be declared alive. He is to be fully restored to his life and property. Lady Mollis Secundus is thereby found guilty of document forgery and is sentenced to death. May the Emperor protect her soul. Cassia's perspective on marriage is that the Imperium is correct. Lady Mollis Secundus may stay with her new husband, but she shall return the family business to Lord Mollis. Henceforth, my protectorate will operate under a new concept of legal spousehood. Interesting. That gives us more security. I hereby sentence Lady Mollis Secundus to a duty of exploration and development of the Protectorate's fringe worlds. Give her everything she needs to conduct her business. I expect her results to be impressive. As she has been found guilty, Lord Mollis is to be deemed alive. That gives us profit factor. I do like that one. Well, Prefect, let us discuss the crime committed inside the Administratum that has led to this hearing. Fun. Execute the imposter. No one can be alive when everything points to them being dead. It's a family affair. Let them handle it. We just lose efficiency. Tempting. But no. I'm going to go with the one that our skill check brought up. That also gives us profit factor. Where sentence her to a duty of exploration development of the Protectorate's fringe worlds. Preferably with her husband, because that seems to be a well-matched pair. And then Lord Mollis can be deemed alive and carry on with his original business. Which means no one has to die. Lady Mollis Secundus will depart for her place of exile before today ends. Arbitrators, carry out the sentence. As the last attendants leave the courtroom, the prefect turns to you with a delighted expression. Lady Theodora held court sessions like this to strengthen her subjects' faith in the Lex Imperialis and the fear of breaching it. A most useful practice, wouldn't you agree? Are there no more active disputes in my domain? Come now, bring me a few more misguided souls. The entire court is a farce. They call this a palace of justice, but what goes on here is anything but. Some truth to that. It was amusing at first, but not for long. If we are finally done, I will take my leave. Yeah, it felt more like a trap to try and make me make a mistake. It was amusing at first, but not for long. If we are finally done, I will take my leave. Of course, your lordship. I dare not take up any more of your time. The sacred symbol of the Imperium's justice, implacable and unsparing. Some goods. Fix a cogitator.
This explorator is blessed with multifunctionality.
Alright, this cogitator is filled with data on the workings of the Palace of Justice, listing things such as the names of servants and details of executions. The number of people entering the building is always greater than that of those leaving it. Well, yeah, if you're regularly executing people.
I'll lay claim to the stars.
Let's see who else we have around. Port Administrator. Might... Okay.
They would probably just send you to the archives, digging up records on the tech priests who installed the weapon. Do you have a decade of your life to spare, Pascal?
Combined with the Imperium's justice in the form of a massive melt-a-weapon, the roaring torrents of flame it generates leaves criminals without a single chance.
Victory awaits.
Examine the book.
As it should be.
Excerpts from the Lex Dargonus with addenda. The changes personally signed by Theodore von Valencius reflect the current situation in the Koronus Expanse. To appropriate another's possessions.
Death, the only thing that can make you abide by your own laws? What other sentient creatures realize intuitively, you enforce through violence.
Do not compare the absolute of the Lex to xenos instincts. The perfection of the Emperor's law is such that it is not meant to be comprehended, but it is meant to be followed, willingly or otherwise.
Everyone's just tearing into him. To appropriate another's possessions is a transgression against his will, for he has divided all of humanity into those who are worthy of having said possessions and those who are not.
My success is an irrefutable certainty.
Cogitator is filled with personal data of the executed. All their possessions have been meticulously accounted for and deposited into the storerooms of the Administratum. Glado was barking over here. Is there... I don't see anything to interact with.
A new challenge for me.
Check out this scale. Monumental scales barely fit inside the Palace of Justice. They were crammed into the hall after the Adeptus Arbites arrived.
Marking location.
Operation successful.
Steel Triad, it's a shield. We'll have to see how it compares to the one he's using. Let's see. 30% shield block chance, same damage. 3 copies. There are 3 copies of this shield. Okay. Also, this scrolls down. Not overly much. I think that might have all still basically fit. Wielder gains bonuses based on the number of adjacent allies wielding the Steel Triad. So if we can find all 3 and then have people wearing them or wield them and stand adjacent to each other, then one ally you would get +2 deflection and +10% block. 2 allies, combat master talent, 10% block. Area attack damage suffered reduced by 30%. Shields allow the wielder to block. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's an additional 5% block chance, but I like the agility test to be blinded more, so I think I'm going to keep him with his current shield. Commerce.
I've read about this.
Financial reports, the procurement data that does not match up with the spending, but this has been gracefully covered up by way of a shrinkage column. Okay, so financial data is being somewhat hidden. Lying is a transgression that burdens the soul of one who commits it. Lying to a superior is a crime against the Imperium itself, for it disrupts its blessed structure.
None shall stand in my way.
To kill with the intent of enriching oneself is a crime. To kill for righteous cause is a deed to be honored and exalted. Ha. Yeah, I hear you, Glado. Alright, I think that's everything back down here has been... Nope, still more loot we missed. Fantastic. Where is all this loot I missed? Oh, I'm on the wrong side. Over here. Old complaint. This time-worn piece of paper bears a petition of some sort. You managed to make out only a fragment. Then he treacherously intruded upon the ancestral territories of House Gaprak and wrought destruction therein. The list of damages is headed by, but not limited to, 3 servitors of ancient make, 5 armored vehicles, and 10 cogitators whose machine spirits are beyond recovery. Consequently, we demand that House Sauerbach be penalized for an amount thricely covering the damage inflicted. In support of our accusation, we provided the following. Alright, that looks like we've now looked at everything. That's the way to get back to the void ship. What was up here? Because we didn't go to the back. There's a couple of arbitrators. Can we head through? Or interact with you in any manner? No. Okay.
It's about time.
So let's go back to our void ship. But Solomon is supposed to be given a different mission, so do we just lose him now at this point? And at what point does he come back to our crew? I'm assuming he's not just permanently gone. A minute of your time, Rogue Trader. I wanted to inform you that Glado will be staying aboard your ship while I am away on my mission for the Administratum. His augmetics have taken quite a hit after everything that happened on Thessar, so I'm putting him into the care of your tech priests. You're going on a mission without Glado? That sounds risky. Your dog will be well taken care of, Solomon. That does not sound worthy of my attention, but it is noted regardless. Okay, you're going on a mission without Glado. That sounds risky. It would be riskier still to go with a malfunctioning cybermastiff. Since I am pressed for time, I will simply have to adapt to the circumstances. Well, your dog will be well taken care of, Solomon. Thank you for hearing me out. That is all I meant to say. So we've got Glado, but we don't have Solomon. So if we go back to the bridge, just because I want to confirm that, is Glado standing on the bridge where Solomon stands, and Solomon's not there? I guess I should also check my journal to see if we have any new quests or things to do regarding Solomon's disappearance. So if we go to journal, yeah, we don't have a companion quest for that. So if we head back down here, this is where Solomon was standing. Thought. Unless I'm misremembering, but I think he was like roughly down here. Yeah, I don't see Glado anywhere on here either. It's very strange. Well, I guess with that in mind, we will just continue our travels without Solomon and Glado until they eventually show up again. I don't know. But I think that's where we're going to end this stream today, because I think this is a fine stopping point. Next time we will probably head back to that star sector where the not Forge world, the feudal world was, and then explore farther out from there to those new worlds or new systems that we haven't explored yet. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you then. Bye.